How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at The Pyramid. This is from 2014, directed by Gregory Levasseur, stars Ashley Hinshaw, Denis O'Hare, and James Buckley, and as the top of the DVD will remind us, is produced by Alexandre Aja, who you guys may know for directing the Hills Have Eyes remake and a really fun French film, High Tension. A good director, but he's producing this movie, not directing that, so bear that in mind. Overall, though, this movie I had in my collection for quite some time. I'm a big found footage fan, so of course I snatched this thing up and said, hey, found footage in a pyramid, that should be fun, I should watch it someday. Well, fast forward a little bit, and I was flipping through HBO Max, and they kept pushing this movie. Like, it constantly showed up in recommended, and it would constantly be on trending, and I'm like, why is Max pushing this? And I decided to watch this, and after I watched it, I asked myself, why is Max pushing this? Because it really isn't great. And I'm not a comedy teardown channel. I don't enjoy tearing movies apart, but this movie has faults. As far as a Descent style movie, you know, characters going in a cave, getting trapped there, wanting to get out, but they're not alone, it's okay, but it doesn't have near the tension of The Descent. Really, you would eventually get pyramid traps, and those are always fun. You know, you get like a couple minutes of a fun sequence, but then it goes back to roaming around these dull, really unimpressive sets, just being trapped and being boring with characters I don't really care about. And yeah, the characters, they have some traits, but no life or personality or character. I mean, the archaeologist, there's a father and a daughter, and it talks a bit about that relationship. And one of the cameramen is kind of funny, so I guess he's one of the better characters. But other than that, these are all kind of cardboard and wooden. And the best example I can give is the archaeologist daughter character, blonde-haired girl, and the host of the documentary, brown curly hair. They look completely different, but halfway through, I'd forgotten which one was which, and I had to be like, wait a minute, which one's the daughter again? They're just cardboard, and that's sad, because I can't get invested, it's not as tense. But the Descent style element of this, it's okay, but where the film really fails is found footage. This does the found footage thing where they open up saying this is all real with some text on a screen, and then we meet the documentary crew going to film this. It sets it up as found footage, but halfway through it either forgets or doesn't care because it breaks formula so often and so bad. This is, for real, one of the worst movies to use the magic camera syndrome. Basically, in found footage, you get real-world existing cameras. A character's holding one, there's a security camera, a webcam, something like that. Found footage movies have to have real-world cameras that we're getting the footage from, but every now and then in found footage movies, you get a camera that I have no idea where it came from, who's filming this, what's going on. And this movie has that in spades. And there are several cameras scattered about, lots of characters have one, so it kind of hides it for most of the movie. But man, when you get down to two characters and they're both in frame, what is the monster filming this? They open up a long dark hallway that people haven't been in years and years, and there's a camera at the other end filming them come in. It is just terrible magic camera. And if they wanted to do a blended movie, that would be fine. But they never establish it's blended. They do all this work in the beginning to say it's found footage, but there's no distinction when it pops out of it, and it just feels like laziness. Also, it looks too cinematic. When you're doing found footage, it's supposed to look real and grungy, like something that could actually happen. And I guess you could say this is a modern documentary crew shooting this. It would look better, but the whole thing just looks too good and doesn't seem real. Also, way too many cuts. Found footage, longer shots, keeping you in the moment. Here it cuts just like a regular movie, because again, this is a movie that lies to you in the beginning and says it's found footage, and I would say that maybe a third of this movie is legit found footage, and it's just basically, I think, cheating in order to cash in on a popular filming trope of the time. So woohoo. Let's talk a bit about the plot. I'm not going to do any major spoilers, but I do want to analyze a few things and, admittedly, have a few more gripes. So let's jump in. Opening text, this is all real. We meet a camera crew going to film a documentary. There's a father-daughter archaeologist team that has uncovered a new pyramid. A three-sided pyramid, which the movie thinks is really interesting. And I guess it would be a big new discovery, a new pyramid, and it's different. But when you're in a movie and it's like, the pyramid has three sides, it's really not that interesting. But anyway, you meet the characters, and as I said, the characters all have their little traits, but no life, personality, or character behind them. It's not great. There's a generation thing between the father and the daughter. The daughter trusts technology more, and she also has a boyfriend that the father doesn't really trust. Okay, whatever. I don't know. I don't get hooked in with these characters. In order to feel tension, I have to have characters that I like, that I don't want them to die, and you don't get that in this movie. Eventually, we're also introduced to the rover camera, Dogbot, I guess. A little camera from NASA with wheels and a camera so you can remote control it. NASA says it cost $3 million, which is a good example of government taking way more money than they need. Don't trust them. But this $3 million RC car is an interesting thing, you know. It's seeing somewhere you're not supposed to. It's a low, unnatural angle that throws you off a bit. And just, you know, going through and exploring the tunnels with this, it's a good idea. And the first time we see it, the boyfriend uses it to spy on the archaeologist's daughter, who he's dating, and yeah, just making one of your main characters look like a jerk right at the beginning. And I get like VHS does this, but VHS openly admits that almost all of their characters are huge jerks. Here, when he gets caught, it's more just an OU moment, despite the fact that the camera is automatically backed up to a cloud, which he can't delete it from, and so he's sharing this with all these other scientists, and you're making him seem like a huge jerk, and all they actually put in the movie is a little bit of side boob. It's like, why did we do this whole sequence here? I don't know. But eventually they use Dogbot for what he's supposed to do, and they send him in the pyramid. Now, they send him in the pyramid because there's political unrest, which I gather was an actual thing that happened at this time, and the university says you have one day and you have to get out of there. So they send him in to at least get something, you know? The documentary, the exposition, all of it looks like it's gonna be a bust, and that really sucks. So let's send Dogbot in there and at least get something when he gets knocked over. And they have to go in and get him. And their line is going to be cut. And they're going to fall through the floor in a fun enough sequence. And of course, something else is in there with them. So yeah, a few things. One, the pyramid is flippin' ugly. Like, okay, when you think of a movie that takes place in a pyramid, big, extravagant artwork, maybe a ton of treasures, organs stored in clay jars, big, exciting. Maybe you expect the rooms to look different. That would be something, right? The entire pyramid is these boring gray blocks that if you look close enough might have a few little hieroglyphics etched in there, but it is so freaking boring. And in turn, you really want them to get to something interesting, and every now and then there is a few traps. Thank goodness. And the movie perks up and gets interesting for a minute or two, and then the trap's over, and I'm like, come on. No, I don't want to go back to the gray. No. But yeah, the traps are okay. Fall through the floor, gargoyles. Pyramids have gargoyles. Gargoyles spewing out sand and filling up the room. Spikes. A guy gets squished like a Looney Tunes character with a big rock, which I almost burst out laughing when that happened. But hey, it's interesting, right? But the interesting moments aren't enough. And we eventually get back to wandering around one of the most surprisingly boring sets I've seen. That's not great. Also, with this movie, the monster, not actually a mummy. I guess that's different, at least. It's not played out well. Obviously, before you meet the main monster, you get to meet the little versions of the monsters, which are kitty cats. Yeah, a lot of the first part of this movie is Sphinx cats, which I guess thematically it makes sense. I mean, cats are important in Egyptian culture, but they're not scary. Like, when that happened in the Brendan Fraser mummy, that was a joke, right? You know that was a funny joke because cats aren't inherently scary, and so much of the early part of this movie is, oh no, kitty cats! That's not great. I almost forgot, there's one more thing with these evil kitty cats I almost forgot to mention. One of the characters asks, how are they staying alive underground for so long, trapped in this pyramid? What do they eat? And I think it's the dad, but a scientist character, an adult, says they cannibalize each other. That one generation survives by eating the last one. And while cannibalism can get you through a pinch, it's not at all a long-term solution. Do they not understand the conservation of energy? You remember when you were in elementary school, that whole diagram, sun goes to the plant, goes to the primary, then the secondary consumer? Doing anything takes energy, including reproducing and growing a new body. If you don't get new energy constantly, you can't just consume the old energy. There's only so much of that, and relying solely on cannibalism for any form of energy is not going to work. It is just such bad science said in such a way like, oh, of course that's how they do it. No, that is physically impossible. And the thing is, this movie was made after Google. Just look up how things in cave systems survive, or better yet, say, I don't know. Then it doesn't matter. Or maybe you could say, the cats don't eat because they're CGI. You could do that too. But yeah, it was just such a stupid line to think that you could, like, pass the bucket of energy between generations just by eating each other like it's a perfect enclosed system. That is so stupid. Anyway, and then when they do get to the monster, if I told you there was an Egyptian horror movie that wasn't about a mummy, the actual monster in this movie would probably be your first guess. And it is depicted in a very inaccurate Hollywoodification version of this creature. I mean, it gets the basic mythology right. but it turns him into a big, dumb, brooding monster that isn't really what he's supposed to be. It's pretty bad CGI, like for real, just get a tall guy and dress him up in a suit. But it turns into a stupid creature feature that just kind of makes the whole movie feel cheaper. And if you really, really don't want it spoiled, don't YouTube search the movie, because boy, every other YouTuber just puts that in their thumbnail and says, look at it. So yeah, that's there. The climax has some fun parts, like a night vision sequence where suddenly the movie remembers it's supposed to be found footage. But to be honest, the end sequence did go on too long, and when the creature pops up again, I'm like, oh no, we have more time in this movie. Just get it over with. But whatever. This movie has some fun moments. Doing a different creature other than the mummy, I guess that's a cool idea. Not executed really well. Every now and then we got some fun traps, not in there long enough. A boring set, boring characters, and ultimately disrespecting the found footage genre by saying you are and then totally not being. Yeah, this movie is not great, and it was kinda hard to get through it. Again, if you really are fans of something like The Descent, and you don't mind a really not great version of that, it's not the worst thing ever, and I could see putting this on as a lazy Saturday afternoon. I just want something scary, but I'm gonna be half asleep the whole time. That's probably where this movie lies. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist at the bottom. This should be my found footage movies playlist. If you want to see me talk about more found footage movies, you can click right there and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.